Welcome, dear friend. You have found your way here today, and perhaps that is no accident. Perhaps your heart is heavy with the weight of something lost, something precious that has slipped through your fingers like sand. Whether you seek what has been misplaced in the physical world or what has been broken in the depths of your soul, you are not alone in this moment. Today, we turn together to one of the Church's most beloved saints, Anthony of Padua, known throughout the centuries as the finder of lost things. But St. Anthony's power extends far beyond helping us locate missing keys or forgotten documents. He is the saint who understands the deeper losses that pierce the human heart. Lost opportunities, lost relationships, lost hope, lost faith in tomorrow. You have clicked on this video because something inside you believes that miracles are still possible. That belief, however small, however fragmented by disappointment, is enough. That tiny seed of faith is what St. Anthony works with. It is what God works with. And it is why you are here, in this sacred space we create together through prayer. If you are trusting God for something urgent today, if you have come here with desperation in your heart and hope flickering like a candle in the wind, I invite you to be part of this community of believers. Let others know they are not alone by hitting the like button, and consider subscribing so that when you need prayer again, you can find us here, waiting for you. But right now, in this moment, let us center ourselves not on the technology that brought us together, but on the timeless power of prayer that has sustained believers for nearly 800 years since Anthony walked this earth. Let us turn our hearts toward Padua, toward the saint who never turned away a single soul who came to him in need. St. Anthony of Padua lived only 36 years on this earth, yet in that brief span, he became one of the most powerful intercessors the Catholic Church has ever known. Born Fernando Martins de Bulhões in Lisbon, Portugal, around 1195, he was drawn from his youth to a life of prayer and service. But it was not until he encountered the Franciscan friars and heard the stories of their martyrdom in Morocco that his heart was set ablaze with a passion for souls that would define his ministry. When he took the Franciscan habit and chose the name Anthony, he could not have known that God was preparing him to become the saint whom millions would call upon in their darkest hours of loss. He could not have known that his voice would echo through the centuries, carrying the prayers of countless souls to the throne of the Almighty. What drives someone to search for what is lost with such desperation? Is it the monetary value of the missing item? Sometimes. Is it the sentimental attachment we have formed? Often, but most frequently, it is something deeper. The feeling that when we lose something important, we lose a piece of ourselves. We lose our sense of control, our confidence, our peace of mind. You know this feeling, don't you? That knot in your stomach when you realize something precious is gone. That frantic searching, that retracing of steps, that growing panic as minutes turn to hours and hope begins to fade. Whether it's a wedding ring that slipped from your finger, important documents that vanished from your desk, or money that was there yesterday and is nowhere to be found today, loss has a way of making us feel small and powerless in a vast, indifferent world. But what if I told you that your loss, whatever it may be, has already been seen by eyes that never close? What if the thing you seek has already been counted by hands that never lose track of even the smallest sparrow that falls? What if your frantic searching has been heard by ears that are always listening, always attentive to the cries of his children? This is the foundation of our prayer today. Not wishful thinking, not superstition, but the rock-solid truth that we serve a God who loses nothing and lets nothing that belongs to his children remain lost forever. St. Anthony understood this truth so deeply that it radiated from him like light from a flame. When people came to him with their losses, he did not merely offer sympathy, he offered faith. Faith that what was lost could be found. Faith that what was broken could be restored. Faith that what seemed impossible was merely waiting for the right moment to be revealed. The first recorded miracle of St. Anthony's intercession in finding lost things occurred during his own lifetime. A young novice had become discouraged with religious life and decided to leave the monastery, taking with him a valuable book of psalms that belonged to Anthony. In those days, before the printing press, Such books were precious beyond measure, copied by hand and representing months or years of painstaking work. When Anthony discovered the theft, he did not pursue the young man with anger or demand the return of his property through force. Instead, he knelt in prayer. He placed his loss, his disappointment, his need into the hands of God. And what happened next has been recounted in countless churches, in countless prayers, for nearly 8 centuries. The young novice, traveling away from the monastery with the stolen book, was suddenly confronted by a terrifying apparition, a figure wielding a sword and commanding him to return what he had taken. The vision was so real, so overwhelming, that the young man immediately turned back, returned the book to Anthony, and begged forgiveness. But here is the most beautiful part of the story. Anthony not only forgave him, but convinced him to return to religious life, where he lived faithfully for the rest of his days. Do you see the deeper miracle here? It was not merely that a lost book was found, it was that a lost soul was restored. This is the true power of Saint Anthony's intercession. He does not simply help us recover our missing possessions, he helps us recover ourselves. But perhaps you are thinking, my situation is different. My loss is not a book or a small possession. I have lost something far more valuable, far more complex. You have lost your job and with it your financial security. You have lost a relationship that you thought would last forever. You have lost your health, your confidence, your sense of purpose. You have lost someone you love to death and you feel as though a part of your soul has been buried with them. Listen carefully to what I am about to tell you, because it may be the most important thing you hear today. Saint Anthony's intercession is not limited by the size or the nature of your loss. The same power that helped recover a manuscript in 13th century Portugal is available to you right now, wherever you are, whatever you have lost. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus tells us, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you." These are not merely beautiful words spoken 2,000 years ago and preserved in Scripture for our admiration. These are living promises as true today as they were when they first left the lips of our Savior. And Saint Anthony, who dedicated his life to seeking the lost and leading them back to God, has become one of the most powerful channels through which these promises are fulfilled. But here is what many people do not understand about prayer and intercession. It is not magic. It is not a formula where you say the right words and automatically receive what you want. True prayer, the kind that moves heaven and earth, comes from a heart that has been broken open by loss and made tender by hope. It comes from a soul that has reached the end of its own resources and is willing to trust completely in God's infinite love and perfect timing. Are you ready to pray that kind of prayer today? Are you ready to lay down your need to understand how God will work and simply trust that He will? Are you ready to admit that you cannot find what you have lost on your own and that you need help from beyond this visible world? If this prayer is already stirring something inside your heart, if you feel that spark of hope beginning to grow brighter, then share this moment with others who need to know that they are not alone in their losses. Hit the like button and let this prayer reach other searching hearts. Your simple action might be the way God leads someone else to the miracle they desperately need. The city of Padua in northern Italy has become a pilgrimage destination for millions of believers, all drawn by the same magnetic hope that fills your heart right now. They come carrying photographs of missing loved ones, carrying the weight of financial ruin, carrying broken dreams and shattered relationships. They come from every continent, speaking every language, but they all speak the universal language of loss and the desperate hope for restoration. The Basilica of St. Anthony in Padua houses not only the saint's remains but also thousands of testimonies from people whose prayers have been answered through his intercession. Letters in dozens of languages, photographs, small tokens of gratitude, all bearing witness to the truth that St. Anthony continues his ministry of finding the lost, even centuries after his death. But you do not have to travel to Padua to access this same power. You do not have to light candles in an ancient basilica or touch sacred relics with your fingertips. The communion of saints is not limited by geography or time. Right now, in this moment, as you sit wherever you are, St. Anthony can hear your prayer just as clearly as if you were kneeling before his tomb. This is the mystery and the beauty of our Catholic faith, that death does not separate us from those who have gone before us in holiness. The saints are not distant figures from history books. They are our brothers and sisters in Christ, our advocates in the court of heaven, our partners in prayer who understand our struggles, because they faced their own struggles while living in this broken world. Anthony faced the loss of his homeland when he left Portugal for Italy. He faced the loss of his original religious community when he transferred from the Augustinian canons to the Franciscan friars. He faced the loss of his health, suffering from the physical ailments that would eventually claim his young life. He faced the loss that comes with watching people he loved choose paths that led away from God. He knows loss intimately, and that is why his intercession is so powerful and so tender. When you call upon Saint Anthony, you are not approaching a distant, untouchable figure who cannot relate to your pain. You are approaching someone who has walked through the valley of loss and emerged with his faith not only intact but stronger than ever. You are approaching someone who learned that every loss in this world is an opportunity to discover treasures that cannot be lost, cannot be stolen, cannot be destroyed by time or circumstances. But let us be specific about what we are praying for today. Perhaps you have lost something tangible, jewelry passed down through generations, important documents that you need for a legal matter, money that represents months of saving for something important. The specificity of your loss matters because it shows God that you trust Him with the details of your life, not just the grand gestures. Saint Anthony, hear our prayer for those who have lost items of great value to them. Whether the value is monetary or sentimental, you know that these losses cause real pain in human hearts. You know that the businessman who has lost his briefcase containing crucial contracts is not just worried about leather and paper. He is worried about his ability to provide for his family. You know that the grandmother who has lost her wedding ring is not just concerned about gold and diamonds. She is grieving the visible symbol of a love that defined her life. We do not come to you asking for magic or demanding that the laws of physics be suspended for our convenience. We come to you asking for what you have always provided, the grace to see what we cannot see, the wisdom to look where we have not yet looked, the peace to trust when our searching seems futile. Sometimes you work by helping us remember where we placed something. Sometimes you work by inspiring others to find what we have lost and return it to us. Sometimes you work in ways that are clearly miraculous, ways that leave no doubt about your powerful intercession. But our prayer today extends beyond lost objects to lost opportunities. How many times have we said to ourselves, "If only I had taken that chance"? How many times have we watched doors close that we were too afraid or too proud to walk through when they were open? How many times have we let fear rob us of the future God intended for us? The pain of lost opportunity can be even more devastating than the loss of material possessions because it carries with it the weight of regret and self-blame. We torment ourselves with questions that have no answers. What if I had spoken up in that meeting? What if I had taken that job offer? What if I had been braver in that relationship? What if I had invested differently, chosen differently, loved differently? Saint Anthony, you who spent your brief life seizing every opportunity to serve God and serve souls, pray for those who are haunted by the opportunities they let slip away. Help them to see that God's grace is not limited by their past decisions. Help them to understand that the same God who can restore lost objects can also restore lost chances, can open new doors, even when old ones have closed permanently. We live in a world that tells us that some mistakes cannot be undone, that some opportunities never come twice, that some words once spoken or left unspoken change everything forever. But we serve a God who specializes in second chances, third chances, infinite chances for those who come to Him with repentant hearts and renewed hope. The businessman who passed up the chance to buy property that later became valuable can still find financial prosperity through new opportunities. The woman who did not speak her feelings to a man who has now married someone else can still find true love with someone even better suited for her. The student who dropped out of school can still achieve educational goals through different paths. The person who made poor investments can still build wealth through wiser choices. This is not naive optimism. This is the radical hope of the gospel. This is the promise that in God's economy, nothing is ever truly wasted if we bring it to Him with humble hearts. Even our failures, even our missed opportunities, even our losses can be transformed into stepping stones toward the future He has prepared for us. But perhaps the most painful loss of all is the loss of relationships, the friendships that once meant everything to us, but have crumbled under the weight of misunderstanding, pride, or simple neglect. We live in an age where relationships seem more fragile than ever, where people drift apart over political differences, where families are torn apart by arguments that escalate beyond all reason, where lifelong friends become strangers because neither person is willing to make the first move toward reconciliation. The loss of friendship cuts deep because friendship is supposed to be chosen, not obligated. When a friendship dies, we lose not just companionship but validation, the confirmation that someone has seen us at our best and worst and chosen to love us anyway. We lose shared history, inside jokes, the comfort of being truly known by another person. We lose the future we had envisioned together, the plans we made, the dreams we shared. How do you pray for a lost friendship? How do you ask God to restore something that depends on the free will of another person? How do you hope for reconciliation when the other person may not even want to be found? Saint Anthony, you who preached so powerfully about the love that should exist between Christians, you who saw every person as a beloved child of God worthy of forgiveness and second chances, intercede for those whose hearts are broken by the loss of friendship. Help them to see their own role in the breakdown of these relationships without drowning in guilt. Help them to forgive others without minimizing their own pain. Help them to know when to keep trying and when to let go with love. Sometimes the miracle of restored friendship happens quickly and dramatically. A phone call out of the blue, an unexpected encounter that breaks down walls built by years of silence, a mutual friend who serves as a bridge between two stubborn hearts. Sometimes the miracle happens slowly, through a gradual softening of pride, a growing clarity about what really matters, a deepening understanding that life is too short to waste on grudges. And sometimes, the miracle is not the restoration of the old friendship, but the opening of our hearts to new friendships that are even deeper, even more authentic, even more life-giving than what we lost. Sometimes God allows certain relationships to end, not because He is cruel, but because He has something better waiting for us. Relationships with people who will know us more fully and love us more freely than we ever thought possible. The same principle applies to romantic relationships that have ended badly, leaving us feeling like we will never love or be loved in the same way again. The grief of lost love can be overwhelming, especially when we invested years of our lives in someone who ultimately chose a different path. We feel like we have lost not just a partner but a future, the home we plan to share, the children we hope to raise together, the old age we envisioned spending side by side. But here is what Saint Anthony understood about love. True love always makes us more ourselves, not less. True love expands our capacity for joy, for service, for compassion. If a relationship left us feeling smaller, more insecure, more disconnected from God and from our own authentic selves, then what we lost was not true love, but something counterfeit that was preventing us from finding the real thing. The heart that has been broken by love is not damaged goods. It is a heart that has been prepared through pain to love more deeply when the right person comes along. The tears we shed over relationships that did not work out are not wasted. They water the soil of our souls, making us more fertile ground for the kind of love that will last not just until death do us part, but for all eternity. Saint Anthony, pray for those who have lost love and wonder if they will ever find it again. Pray for those who have been betrayed, abandoned, or simply forgotten by someone they thought would never leave. Help them to see that their capacity for love is not diminished by being rejected. It is proven. Help them to understand that the right person will cherish the very qualities that the wrong person could not appreciate. If you are praying for restoration in any area of your life today, if these words are speaking to something deep inside your heart, then you are exactly where you need to be. But don't let this be a solitary experience. Prayer is always more powerful when it is shared. Comment below and let us know what miracle you are praying for, whether it is something material that you have lost or something intangible that you long to have restored. Type Amen if you believe that Saint Anthony is interceding for you right now, or share your specific prayer intention so that this entire community can join their prayers with yours. This brings us to one of the most devastating losses a person can face: the loss of financial security. Money may not be the most important thing in life, but when you do not have enough of it, it affects everything else. It affects your ability to care for your family, to maintain your health, to live with dignity and peace of mind. It affects your relationships, your self-esteem, your sense of purpose and hope for the future. Perhaps you have lost money through bad investments, trusting the wrong people, or simply the economic circumstances beyond your control. Perhaps you have lost your job and with it, the steady income that allowed you to sleep peacefully at night. Perhaps you have lost your business, your home, your retirement savings. Perhaps you have lost the financial foundation that you spent decades building, and you feel like you are starting over at an age when you thought you would be secure. Financial loss carries with it a unique kind of shame, because our culture tends to equate financial success with personal worth. When we lose money, we often feel like we have lost more than our security. We feel like we have lost our competence, our intelligence, our right to be respected by others. We feel like failures, like burdens, like people who cannot be trusted with responsibility. But Saint Anthony understood something that our materialistic culture has forgotten. Our worth is not measured by our bank account balance. Our identity is not determined by our net worth. Our purpose on earth is not primarily to accumulate wealth, but to love God and serve others. And these things can be done just as authentically, perhaps more authentically, by those who have little as by those who have much. The saints throughout history have taught us that poverty can be a pathway to holiness if it leads us to trust more completely in God's providence. But this does not mean that we should not pray for financial restoration or that God is indifferent to our material needs. Jesus himself taught us to pray for our daily bread, acknowledging that we need material provisions to survive and serve in this world. Saint Anthony, you who chose poverty for yourself but never failed to provide for those who came to you in need, intercede for those who are struggling financially. You know that money worries can consume a person's thoughts, making it difficult to pray, difficult to trust, difficult to see beyond the immediate crisis. You know that financial stress can destroy marriages, break up families, and drive people to desperation. Help those who have lost their financial security to see this loss not as evidence of God's abandonment, but as an opportunity to experience His provision in new ways. Help them to remember that the same God who feeds the birds of the air and clothes the lilies of the field knows their needs before they ask, and will not abandon them in their hour of need. Sometimes God provides through miraculous intervention, unexpected checks in the mail, job offers that come out of nowhere, investments that suddenly pay off in ways no one could have predicted. Sometimes God provides through the kindness of others, friends who offer help without being asked, strangers who extend generosity at just the right moment, communities that rally around those in need. Sometimes God provides through our own resourcefulness, giving us ideas we never had before, opening our eyes to opportunities we had not noticed, helping us discover talents and abilities we did not know we possessed. Sometimes the financial restoration we pray for comes not through recovering what we lost, but through building something entirely new and better than what we had before. The key is to remain open to God's ways, which are not always our ways. We might pray for our old job back while God is preparing us for a completely different career that will bring not only financial security but greater fulfillment. We might pray for a specific business venture to succeed while God is redirecting us toward an opportunity that will serve others more effectively and bring us deeper satisfaction. This requires a different kind of trust than what most people understand. It requires trusting not just that God will provide, but that His provision will be better than anything we could have arranged for ourselves. It requires believing that the God who knows the number of hairs on our head also knows exactly how much money we need, exactly when we need it, and exactly how it should come to us for our maximum good and His greatest glory. But material loss, painful as it is, often leads us to discover spiritual treasures that we might never have found otherwise. When we can no longer rely on our own resources, we learn to rely on God in ways that transform our entire relationship with Him. When we can no longer solve our problems with money, we discover that our most important problems were never really about money at all. The person who loses their fortune and finds their faith has gained more than they lost. The person who loses their job and discovers their calling has been redirected, not destroyed. The person who loses their financial independence and learns to receive help from others with grace and gratitude has grown in humility and love. This is not to minimize the real pain of financial loss or to suggest that we should be grateful for financial hardship. It is simply to affirm what St. Anthony knew and what all the saints have taught us, that God can bring good out of even the most devastating circumstances if we trust Him and remain open to His working in our lives. There is another kind of loss that may be weighing heavily on your heart today: the loss of health. Perhaps you or someone you love has received a diagnosis that changed everything. Perhaps abilities you once took for granted have been diminished by age, accident, or illness. Perhaps energy that was once boundless now must be carefully rationed. Perhaps independence that was once assumed has been replaced by dependence on others for basic needs. The loss of health confronts us with our mortality in ways that few other losses can. It reminds us that these bodies we inhabit are temporary, fragile, subject to forces beyond our control. It can make us feel betrayed by our own flesh, frustrated by limitations that seem to come out of nowhere, anxious about a future that has suddenly become uncertain. But St. Anthony, whose own health was fragile and whose life was cut short by illness, can teach us something important about finding grace in the midst of physical suffering. He did not allow his physical limitations to limit his spiritual impact. If anything, his awareness of his mortality seems to have intensified his passion for souls and his trust in God's timing. The miracles attributed to St. Anthony's intercession include many healings: people who were blind and received sight, people who were lame and walked again, people who were dying and were restored to health. But perhaps the greater miracle is the grace he helps people find to live faithfully and joyfully, even when healing does not come in the way they hoped. St. Anthony, pray for those who have lost their health and long to have it restored. You know that the desire to feel strong and capable again is not vanity, but a natural human longing. You know that people who are suffering physically often feel isolated, misunderstood, impatient with their own limitations, and frustrated by their inability to live as they once did. Help them to see that their worth is not diminished by their physical limitations. Help them to understand that God can use them powerfully even when they feel weak, that their witness of faith in the midst of suffering may touch hearts that would never be reached by easier testimonies. Help them to discover that intimacy with God often grows deepest in the soil of physical vulnerability. But also, St. Anthony, pray for their healing when it is God's will. Pray that doctors will have wisdom, that treatments will be effective, that bodies will respond in ways that surprise everyone with their resilience and recovery. Pray for the miracle of restored health, but also for the miracle of grace to trust God's perfect love whether healing comes or not. Sometimes the restoration we pray for takes a form we do not expect. The person who loses their physical mobility may discover new depths of prayer and contemplation. The person who loses their independence may find community and love they never knew existed. The person who faces a terminal diagnosis may experience healing of relationships and healing of spiritual wounds that is more important than physical healing. This does not mean that we should not pray specifically for physical healing or that God is indifferent to our bodily suffering. Jesus spent much of his earthly ministry healing the sick, proving that God cares about our physical well-being. But it does mean that God's definition of healing is bigger than ours, and his timeline for restoration may be longer than we would choose. The same mystery applies to the loss of mental and emotional health. Depression, anxiety, trauma, addiction. These invisible illnesses can be even more isolating than physical diseases because they are not always understood or accepted by others. The person struggling with mental health issues may feel like they have lost themselves, lost their ability to feel joy, lost their capacity to connect with others or even with God. Saint Anthony, whose preaching brought peace to troubled hearts and whose presence calmed the most agitated spirits, intercede for those who have lost their emotional equilibrium. You know that the pain of mental illness is real, that it cannot be overcome by willpower alone, that it requires both human help and divine grace. Pray that those who are struggling will find the right doctors, the right medications, the right therapists. Pray that they will have the courage to seek help and the wisdom to accept it when it is offered. Pray that their families and friends will respond with compassion rather than judgment, with patience rather than frustration. But most of all, Saint Anthony, help them to know that God has not abandoned them in their darkness. Help them to remember that their feelings, however overwhelming, are not the final truth about their lives. Help them to hold on to hope even when hope feels impossible, to believe in healing even when healing seems beyond reach. As we continue this prayer together, I want to address something that may be troubling some of you who are listening. You may be thinking, I have prayed for these things before. I have asked Saint Anthony to help me find what I have lost. I have begged God for restoration, for healing, for second chances, but nothing has happened. My prayers seem to go unanswered. How can I trust again? How can I hope again when hope has disappointed me so many times? This is perhaps the most honest question anyone can ask about prayer, and it deserves an honest answer. Faith that has never been tested by unanswered prayer is not mature faith. It is simply wishful thinking. Faith that continues to trust even when God seems silent, even when miracles do not come in the timing or the form we expect, is the kind of faith that moves heaven and earth. The truth is that we do not always understand why some prayers are answered quickly and others seem to be answered slowly or differently than we hoped. We do not always understand why some people receive miraculous healing while others suffer with grace but without cure. We do not always understand why some lost things are found immediately while others remain lost despite years of searching and praying. But here is what we do know. God is good, even when our circumstances are not. God loves us, even when we cannot feel that love. God is working for our ultimate good, even when His work is invisible to us. And God's timeline is not our timeline. What seems like delay to us may be perfect timing from His eternal perspective. Saint Anthony himself did not see the full impact of his ministry during his lifetime. He died young, probably thinking that he had accomplished relatively little in his 36 years. He could not have known that centuries later, millions of people would call upon his name in their times of desperate need. He could not have known that his intercession would continue to bring comfort and hope to countless souls long after his earthly mission was complete. This is the mystery of God's economy. Sometimes the greatest good comes through what initially looks like loss, delay, or even failure. Sometimes our unanswered prayers are answered in ways we could never have imagined. Sometimes what we think we need is not what we actually need, and what we actually need comes to us through paths we would never have chosen. The mother who prays for her wayward child to return home may not see that reconciliation in her lifetime, but her prayers may be working in invisible ways, preparing the ground for a future reunion that will be even more beautiful because of the time it took to unfold. The person who prays for financial restoration may not receive the specific opportunity they had in mind, but their character may be strengthened by the struggle in ways that prepare them for even greater blessings down the road. The couple who prays for their marriage to be healed may not see immediate changes in their relationship, but their commitment to keep praying, keep trying, keep loving, may be building spiritual muscle that will serve them well for decades to come. The person who prays for healing from illness may not receive physical cure, but they may receive grace to live with their limitations in ways that inspire everyone who knows them. This does not mean that we should stop asking for specific things or that God does not care about our immediate needs. It simply means that faith requires us to trust not just in God's power, but in God's wisdom, not just in God's willingness to give us what we want, but in His perfect knowledge of what we actually need. Saint Anthony, Help us to pray with this kind of mature faith. Help us to bring our specific needs to God with confidence and expectation, while also surrendering our attachment to exactly how and when those needs should be met. Help us to trust that every sincere prayer is heard, that every genuine need is known, that every act of faith is precious to God even when it does not produce immediate visible results. And help us to remember that the greatest miracle is not the restoration of what we have lost, but the transformation of our hearts through the process of seeking, trusting, and hoping in God. Help us to see that sometimes we must lose what we think we cannot live without in order to discover what we actually cannot live without. The deepest loss that any human being can experience is the loss of hope itself. When we lose hope, we lose everything, because hope is what enables us to keep going when everything else fails. Hope is what helps us get up in the morning when we would rather stay in bed. Hope is what gives us the courage to try again when we have failed before. Hope is what connects us to a future that is better than our present, even when we cannot see how that future is possible. But hope is also the most fragile of all human emotions. It can be crushed by disappointment, eroded by repeated failures, suffocated by cynicism or despair. When we lose hope, we often do not even have the energy to pray for its restoration, because the act of praying itself requires hope. Hope that someone is listening. Hope that our prayers matter. Hope that change is possible. If you have lost hope, if these words are reaching you in a place of such darkness that you can barely imagine light returning to your life, please hear this. Your hopelessness does not disqualify you from God's love. Your inability to muster faith does not make you unworthy of miracles. Your exhaustion with praying and trying and believing does not mean that God has given up on you. Saint Anthony, you who never lost faith even in your darkest moments, who continued to preach and serve and love even when your body was failing and your time was running short, pray for those who have lost hope. Surround them with your protection and your intercession. Help them to know that even when they cannot pray for themselves, others are praying for them. Even when they cannot see any reason to keep going, God sees reasons they cannot imagine. Sometimes the restoration of hope comes through dramatic interventions, sudden breakthroughs, unexpected good news, miraculous changes that no one saw coming. Sometimes it comes through small, quiet shifts, a moment of unexpected peace, a kind word from a stranger, a sunset that somehow speaks to the soul and whispers that beauty is still possible. Sometimes hope returns through the realization that we have survived things we never thought we could survive, that we are stronger than we knew, that God's grace has been sustaining us even when we were not aware of it. Sometimes hope returns through meeting others who have walked similar paths and found their way through to the other side. The person who has lost a child and thought they would never smile again discovers, years later, that they can remember their child with joy as well as grief. The person who went through a devastating divorce finds love again, deeper and more authentic than what they lost. The person who lost everything in a financial collapse builds a new life that is simpler, but more meaningful than their old one. This is the miracle of hope restored. It does not erase the pain of what we have lost, but it opens our eyes to what we have gained through the process of losing. It does not minimize our suffering, but it gives that suffering meaning by showing us how it has prepared us to help others, to love more deeply, to trust more completely in what truly matters. But let us return to the practical aspects of prayer, because while spiritual growth is beautiful and necessary, you came here today with specific needs that require specific intervention. You need St. Anthony's help not just with your character development, but with finding actual solutions to real problems. The beauty of St. Anthony's intercession is that it bridges the gap between the spiritual and the material, between the eternal and the immediate. He cares about your lost car keys and your lost sense of purpose. He cares about your missing jewelry and your missing peace of mind. He cares about your financial problems and your relationship problems and your health problems, because he understands that we are not purely spiritual beings. We are embodied souls living in a material world where spiritual realities express themselves through physical circumstances. When you pray to Saint Anthony for help finding something you have lost, you are not engaging in superstition or magic. You are participating in the communion of saints, asking someone who has gone before you in holiness to join his prayers with yours. You are acknowledging that the church is bigger than the visible world, that death does not separate us from those who have died in Christ, that love creates bonds that transcend the boundaries of time and space. This is why millions of Catholics throughout the world turn to Saint Anthony in their times of need. This is why his feast day, June 13th, is celebrated with such joy and devotion. This is why chapels dedicated to him are filled daily with people lighting candles, leaving written requests, kneeling in silent prayer with tears streaming down their faces. These people are not naive or primitive. They are doctors and teachers, students and retirees, parents and grandparents, people who have tried everything else and still need help. They are people just like you, people who have reached the end of their own resources and discovered that admitting our limitations is not weakness, but wisdom. So let us pray together now, not as strangers, but as family, not as individuals, but as one body united in faith and hope. Let us bring our specific needs before Saint Anthony, with the confidence that comes from knowing we are loved, we are heard, and we are not alone in our struggles. Saint Anthony of Padua, beloved finder of lost things, we come before you today carrying burdens too heavy for our hearts to bear alone. We come with empty hands, but hopeful hearts, with specific needs but unlimited trust in God's love for us. We come because we have heard the testimonies of countless souls who have found in your intercession not just solutions to their problems, but peace in the midst of their searching. You understand what it means to lose something precious, because you lost your homeland when you left Portugal for Italy. You understand what it means to have plans disrupted, because your original desire to be a martyr in Morocco was redirected toward ministry in Europe. You understand what it means to feel your time running short, because you died so young with so much work left undone. But you also understand what it means to trust completely in God's perfect timing and perfect plan. You understand what it means to find treasure in unexpected places. You understand what it means to discover that what seems like loss is actually preparation for something greater than we could have imagined. We ask for your intercession today for all those who have lost material possessions that are important to them. For the elderly woman who has lost her wedding ring and feels like she has lost a part of her identity. For the businessman whose briefcase containing crucial documents has vanished just before the most important meeting of his career. For the student whose laptop disappeared along with months of research that cannot be easily replaced. Saint Anthony, you know that these items matter not just because of their monetary value, but because of what they represent. Security, accomplishment, connection to loved ones, hope for the future. You know that when people lose things, they often lose more than objects. They lose confidence in their own competence, peace of mind about their future, trust in the basic fairness of life. Help them to remember where they placed these things or guide them to the places where they might be found. Inspire others who might have picked them up to return them honestly. Work through the complex web of circumstances that governs our material world to bring about the reunions between people and the things they need. But more than that, Saint Anthony, help them to maintain perspective about what they have lost. Help them to remember that their worth is not determined by their possessions, that their identity is not dependent on material things, that their future is not destroyed by temporary setbacks. Help them to trust that if what they have lost cannot be recovered, God will provide something even better to meet their needs. We pray especially for those who have lost money, savings that were supposed to secure their retirement, investments that were supposed to fund their children's education, cash that was stolen or misplaced at exactly the wrong time. Money has a way of making people feel secure when they have it and panicked when they do not, even though we all know intellectually that money cannot guarantee happiness or even safety. Saint Anthony, you who chose poverty as a pathway to holiness but never failed to provide for those who came to you in need, help those who are struggling financially to see their situation clearly. Help them to distinguish between their actual needs and their anxious fears, between reasonable planning and obsessive worry, between responsible stewardship and paralyzing stress about the future. Guide them toward opportunities they have not yet seen, toward resources they have not yet considered, toward people who might be willing to help if they knew about the need. Give them wisdom to make good financial decisions going forward, and courage to take appropriate risks when opportunities present themselves. But most importantly, help them to trust in God's providence even when they cannot see how their financial problems will be resolved. Help them to remember that the same God who feeds the birds and clothes the flowers knows exactly what they need and will not abandon them in their time of need. Now we turn our hearts toward those who have lost relationships that meant everything to them. Saint Anthony, you who preached so eloquently about love and forgiveness, who saw every person as a beloved child of God worthy of compassion and second chances, intercede for those whose friendships have crumbled, whose marriages have ended, whose families have been torn apart by misunderstanding and pride. You know that the pain of relational loss cuts deeper than almost any other kind of loss because relationships are where we find our identity, our purpose, our sense of belonging in this world. When relationships fail, we feel like we have failed. When people we love choose to walk away from us, we wonder if we are worthy of love at all. Help those who are grieving the loss of friendship to see their own contributions to the breakdown without drowning in guilt and self-condemnation. Help them to forgive others without minimizing their own pain or pretending that what happened did not matter. Help them to know when to keep trying to restore a relationship and when to release it with love and move forward. Work in the hearts of estranged friends, softening pride, clarifying communication, opening eyes to what really matters in the face of what is temporary and superficial. Help people to remember why they became friends in the first place, what they appreciated about each other, what they have gained through knowing each other even if the relationship cannot continue in its original form. But Saint Anthony, we also pray for those who have lost romantic relationships that they thought would last forever. The divorced, who never wanted to be divorced, who tried everything to save their marriages, but could not overcome the barriers that developed over time. The single who loved someone deeply but were not loved in return, who opened their hearts completely only to have them broken by rejection or betrayal. These losses carry with them not just grief for what was, but fear about what might never be. Will I ever love again? Will anyone ever love me the way I long to be loved? Will I spend the rest of my life alone, remembering what I had and mourning what I lost? Saint Anthony, help them to see that a heart that has been broken by love is not damaged goods, but prepared ground for deeper, more authentic love when the right person comes along. Help them to understand that the capacity to love deeply is a gift, even when that love is not returned in the way they hoped. Guard them from bitterness, from the temptation to close their hearts to protect themselves from future pain. Help them to remain open to love, to friendship, to the possibility that their greatest love story may still be ahead of them even if they cannot imagine that possibility right now. And for those who are in relationships that are struggling, who feel like they are losing their partner a little bit each day through growing distance, increasing conflict, or simple neglect, give them wisdom to know how to fight for what is worth saving and grace to love well, even when love is not easy. The loss of employment deserves special attention in our prayer today because work provides not just income, but identity, purpose, social connection, and structure to our days. When people lose their jobs, especially when they have been in the same position for many years, they often feel like they have lost themselves along with their source of income. Saint Anthony, you whose work was preaching and teaching, who found deep fulfillment in serving God through serving souls, pray for those who have lost their jobs and wonder if they will ever find work that is meaningful and adequately compensated again. You know that the practical concerns about paying bills and supporting families are real and urgent, but you also know that the deeper concerns about purpose and worth are equally important. Help them to see this transition not just as an ending, but as a potential beginning. Help them to evaluate what they truly want from their work life going forward, not just what they need financially, but what would give them a sense of contribution and fulfillment. Open their eyes to opportunities they might not have considered before, paths that might lead to even greater satisfaction than what they had previously. Give them patience with the job search process, which can be discouraging and demoralizing even for highly qualified people. Help them to present themselves well in interviews, to highlight their strengths without arrogance, to be honest about their limitations without underselling their abilities. But Saint Anthony also work in the hearts and minds of employers, helping them to see potential in candidates they might otherwise overlook, to be fair in their hiring practices, to recognize the value that experience and maturity can bring to their organizations. We cannot speak of lost employment without also addressing the dreams that sometimes die when careers take unexpected turns. The person who trained for years to be a doctor but could not handle the emotional demands of medical practice. The person who built a business from the ground up, only to watch it fail despite their best efforts. The person who had a clear vision of what their life's work would be, only to discover that vision was not realistic or achievable. These losses require a different kind of grieving because they involve mourning not just what was, but what might have been. They require us to let go of identities we had claimed for ourselves and be open to discovering who we might become instead. Saint Anthony, you who had to let go of your original plan to serve as a missionary in Morocco and instead discovered your calling as a preacher in Italy, help those who must reinvent themselves professionally to see this process as adventure rather than failure. Help them to trust that God's plan for their lives may be different from their own plan, but it will not be less fulfilling or less meaningful. The loss of health and physical capacity brings its own unique challenges and deserves focused prayer. When our bodies betray us, when abilities we took for granted are suddenly diminished or gone, when pain becomes a constant companion, we are forced to confront our mortality and our vulnerability in ways that can either deepen our faith or shake it to its foundations. Saint Anthony, your own health was fragile, and you died young from illness that gradually wore down your body, even as your spirit remained strong. You understand what it means to have important work to do, but limited energy to do it. You understand what it means to feel the tension between the willing spirit and the weak flesh. Pray for those who have received difficult diagnoses, who face treatments that are as challenging as the diseases they are meant to cure, who must learn to live with chronic conditions that will require ongoing management and adjustment. Help them to find the balance between fighting their illness with appropriate medical care and accepting their limitations with grace and peace. Give wisdom to their doctors, effectiveness to their treatments, and strength to their bodies to respond well to therapy. But also give them spiritual resources to cope with the fear, frustration, and uncertainty that often accompany health challenges. Help them to discover that physical weakness can coexist with spiritual strength, that being dependent on others is not shameful but human, that their worth is not diminished by their limitations. Help them to find ways to serve and contribute and love, even when their capacity is reduced from what it once was. We pray especially for those who have lost mental and emotional health, who struggle with depression, anxiety, trauma, or addiction. These invisible illnesses are often misunderstood by others and sometimes by those who suffer from them, leading to additional burdens of shame and isolation on top of the illness itself. Saint Anthony, you whose presence brought peace to troubled hearts and whose preaching calmed the most agitated spirits, intercede for those whose minds and emotions are in turmoil. You know that mental illness is not a moral failing, not a sign of weak faith, not something that can be overcome by willpower alone. Help them to find skilled professionals who can provide appropriate treatment. Help them to have access to medications that can restore chemical balance to their brains when that is needed. Help them to find therapists who can guide them through the process of healing from trauma and developing healthy coping strategies. But also, Saint Anthony, help their families and friends to respond with compassion rather than judgment, with patience rather than frustration. Help them to understand that recovery from mental illness is often a long process with setbacks and breakthroughs, and that the most helpful thing they can do is provide consistent love and support without trying to fix what they cannot understand. Help those who struggle with mental health to remember that their condition does not define them. that they are beloved children of God regardless of their symptoms, that healing is possible even when it takes longer than they hoped. As we continue this prayer together, let us address one of the most profound losses any human being can face: the loss of a loved one to death. This loss is different from all others because it is permanent in this life, irreversible by any human effort, final in a way that other losses are not. When someone we love dies, especially when that death is sudden or premature, we lose not just their presence but our future with them. We lose all the conversations we plan to have, all the experiences we hope to share, all the milestones we wanted to celebrate together. We lose their unique perspective on our problems, their particular way of loving us, their irreplaceable place in our lives. Grief is love with nowhere to go, and it can feel overwhelming in its intensity and unpredictable in its timing. People who are grieving often feel like they are losing their minds along with their loved ones, because grief affects not just our emotions but our ability to concentrate, to make decisions, to find meaning in daily activities that once felt important. Saint Anthony, you who had to say goodbye to family and friends when you left Portugal, who watched fellow friars die as martyrs in Morocco, who experienced the pain of loving people in a world where all earthly relationships are temporary, pray for those who are grieving the death of someone precious to them. Help them to understand that their grief is not a problem to be solved, but a love to be honored. Help them to be patient with themselves as they navigate the long journey of learning to live without someone who meant everything to them. Help them to find healthy ways to express their pain rather than numbing it or pretending it does not exist. But Saint Anthony also helped them to maintain connection with their loved ones through prayer, through memory, through the communion of saints that transcends the boundary between earth and heaven. Help them to believe that death is not the end of relationship, but a change in its form, that love survives even when physical presence does not. Work miracles of comfort in the hearts of those who mourn. Help them to feel the presence of their loved ones in moments when they need that reassurance most. Send them signs of hope through dreams, through unexpected encounters, through the kindness of others who are moved to reach out at just the right time. And help them to discover, when they are ready, that their capacity to love has not died with their loved one but has been purified and deepened by loss. Help them to find ways to honor the memory of those they have lost by loving others more fully, by serving more generously, by appreciating more deeply the relationships they still have. But there is another kind of death that deserves mention in our prayer: the death of dreams, hopes, and expectations that we had for our lives. Sometimes what we lose is not a person or an object, but a vision of what we thought our lives